We got you. If you're lost and you look, then you will find me. Yes, time after time.
Sing
Go,
along,
Jen.
everyone.
Sing along if you know the words.
I will catch you. I'll be waiting. Time after time. Okay, you know the yes, Micah.
You have a beautiful singing voice, Siobhán.
That is so kind. You know, I just think that you all haven't been to a live show in so long that you're just happy for what you get, you know, and I'm happy to supply it. Oh, my friends.
With that philosophy, Siobhán, it would take about 17 more years of isolation, and then my voice would even sound good.
I always tell people I can sing, but you don't want to hear me sing. I can.
That's the thing. People say they can't sing. Everyone can sing. It's whether or not you sing well or not. That's the question.
Yeah, you just don't want to hear me do it very much because it's not.
You all know the definition of singing, of what singing is? It's speaking beautifully upon the sustained breath. Wow. Thank you.
Just the breath? What about pitch? Tonality?
That's great.
That's a technicality of singing, but singing itself is just speaking upon the sustained breath beautifully.
Well, that's interesting.
Well, in that case,
sing pretty well, yeah.
In that case, I'm a genius.
So you know the scale, the do, re, mi, fa, so. All you need is one note. Do. Hey, I can do it.
There you go. There you go.
Oh boy. Okay. For anybody who this is your first time, you're just like, what did I walk into? Or, you know, Zoom my way into. But if you've been here before, then you're like, oh, look, it's Siobhán and David and Jen, you know, after doing this 30 times are just peak. This is just peak Zoom Ask Me Anything time. Hello.
Yeah, that's right. Happy 30. This is our 30th Ask Me Anything.
Yeah, you thought it was going to be voiceover, but it's just like put in a request and David sings it. That's what we're doing today. You know?
Hold on.
Let me that started about 2 months, like maybe around Asking Me Anything number 20 when I went into Journey. Remember my Steve Perry?
I'll never forget it. I've learned so much about you through that experience, David. And you know, one day at some conference, we're gonna all sing Journey together, okay? And it's gonna be beautiful. I really can't wait. David's gonna stay up for it. It's gonna be really good. Hi everyone. Don't stop believing. Let's hear it.
Yeah.
Oh my. Woo! Okay. Hello, welcome. Alexis is already just in the zone. Everybody, it's great to see you again. If you were with me last night, thank you for joining me for baby's first class all on her own. That was some chaotic good energy. Yes, free bird. And if you were at that class and now you're back today, then like I just appreciate you being on board for, you know, all the VO in a condensed amount of time. But that's what we do anyway, so whatever. Welcome to our Ask Me Anything session number 30, which is wild. Here at Ask Me Anything, we talk about anything you want to talk about, provided it's regarding VO. Actually, VO and Cyndi Lauper and Journey, we're experts. We're officially experts on in that realm. My name is Siobhán. I am your friendly Zoom host. Okay, Zoomer, whatever you want to call me. That's who I am. And to my Zoom left, nope, that's my Zoom right. It's a mirror, and sometimes I forget. Our Chief Edge Officer, David Goldberg. What is up, David, besides Cyndi and Journey?
Besides my singing voice, not much. This is so cool, though. Second time I'm saying it. How cool that we have done 30 of these sessions. 30 of them, my goodness. And they still remain one of the favorite parts of the week for me, or every other week, right? We do this every other week, every other Thursday.
We do.
Yeah, they're fun. You guys have great questions and keep us on our toes and keeps us fresh and learning. And hopefully, you know, it's a good two-way learning cycle. Yeah, these are awesome.
These are awesome. And I like to see the faces of the people. Oh, Dina, thank you. That's so kind. Yes, you can say hello in the chat. Tell us how you're doing. That's my friend Dina in her beautiful Zoom Square studio space. Coffee buddies. Also, we're just all the coffee buddies. Jenn is on it with the coffee. Some people might be hydrating. some people, if it's your evening, then, cheers to you for happy hour. Yes, Micah. This is great. Yes. Hi, Tim. It's wonderful to feel like I just know you all and get to kind of engage with you in this world. And if you're totally new or just newer in your squares, welcome, Dean. Dean, it looks like you got plants behind you, or maybe just green speakers. Alexis always has a background of something exciting. Hello to Ferdi. Nice to see you. You've got a guitar in the back. It's just good vibes, which is what we're curating here. Speaking of good vibes, one of the ultimate good vibe people in my life, she is she's worked in many realms of the voiceover universe, as I want to say, and currently, and one of her more recent newest realms is being my actual friend, because we did go on a hike together here in California. What wholesome content is that for your Thursday morning? Jenn Sims, coach, voice actor, producer, director. How you doing?
Hey, I am doing great. And like David, I am thrilled to be here. I love that technology allows, I don't know how many ever of us, 55 or so of us, we're here in beautiful Los Angeles, California. I know David's on the East Coast and everybody in between. So super psyched to answer some questions, all things VO. No math, please. Jenn Sims does not do math in her head. So no math, please.
And you know what? I don't either. So, equations will just get thrown to David. And that's the deal.
Nice.
That's the T. I never know how to use that phrase. That's the T. I always use it incorrectly. So there we go. We are recording this session, my friends, and I will be posting it on our socials and our YouTube channel. If you want to follow us, it will be posted on Saturday this weekend. This Saturday, in fact. So additionally, here at Edge, we have some fun things coming up. In particular, you know him, you love him. If you were at the mixer, you heard his dulcet tones. Art Bruder is teaching EQ and compression on May 25th to get you into your home studio vibes. Also, I've got this little link tree. It's a cute little hyperlink that's got all things Edge, kind of our upcoming classes, our links to our YouTube AMA webinars or AMA sessions, our blog posts most recently. So that's a fun little space to see what we are up to. What's up, Nicole? Great to see you. Good morning, afternoon, evening. Hello. Okay, so fabulous. So what we wanted to do today is try to get as many questions. We wanted to try to get 30 questions answered. We've already just had too much fun being silly, but there are less people, which means we might be able to do a bunch. Fun thing that I've brought today, because I can't help myself as a Zoomer, I attended a Zoom wedding, and they had us, they gave us a little bell. It's so cute. And we all did a little bell all at the same time. And it was just actually precious. It might sound annoying, but it does mean that if I want to cut David or Jenn off, if they're going on too long and we won't get 30 questions answered, that I can do that. I may not do that if we're just really doing a great job. Sometimes we really get into it and I love it, but we will see how we go. Some things happened in the Edge world. We've been busy. And I was trying to solicit questions in advance. That didn't exactly work out, but I do have one question. Cleon, are you here? Is my friend in Jamaica with us today? I'm looking in the squares and I don't see him in this moment. So maybe I'll wait to get that going. But hey, Demetra, great to see you. It's great to see everybody, even when you don't have your camera on. Hi, Victoria. I'm so happy you're here. Oh my gosh. Okay. Yes. Okay. People who work with Jenn, we love to see it. So let us begin the questions. The way it's going to work is Cleon is here. I love it. I summoned him. So you're going to drop your questions in the chat, and I'm going to fire them away to our incredible panel here. And the way I like to do when I've got a guest star, as it were, is to just have our first question. And this actually applies to Cleon, who should be in the audio. Hey, my friend, I was going to ask your question first, and I was looking for you. And here you are. So I'm going to tie your question in as I give an intro to Jenn for folks who don't know her. She is a coach with us here at Edge. And I love to introduce people to her just by having her tell us a little bit about how she got started in this world. What was your inspiration? That was one of Cleon's questions. What inspired you to get started in the voiceover universe?
Well, I started as an actor as a kid, and I actually went to conservatory. I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts here in Los Angeles, and somehow segued into advertising. And as an advertising ad agency producer, I produced, I don't know, hundreds of radio spots, television spots, and part of my job was to cast and hire voice talent. And so back in the day, you brought them into the studio. And I just remember sitting in on sessions and watching the voice talent work and thinking, I need to be on the other side of the glass as well. So that just sort of took me on to a little pivot back to acting pretty much full time. Then I got into on camera. So now I mix it up good. Advertising, on camera, voiceover, love it.
Wonderful. And David, let's pop over to you because Cleon was curious. What inspired you to get into the world of voiceover?
First, a segue. I'm looking at the chat, everyone, which I think it might only be the second Ask Me Anything that I've actually had the chat open. I don't know what led me to think about it, but Jen, a couple of cool things. Someone wrote, "Hello, Jen is my narration coach. She is so awesome. Sign up for her sessions." Someone else wrote back, "She's my amazing coach also." So that's pretty cool, Jen.
Yeah, no, Marquita,
Some fans
Nicole,
out there.
lovely, enjoy working. Yeah, thank you, fans. I'm big fans of theirs as well. They're doing great. Really excited to be working with them.
And yeah, I can tell you what led me to voiceover, but I'm going to make it super duper short so we can get to our 30 questions in well, whatever time is left, 47 minutes. Oh, there's some math for you. Edge Studio. I think some of you have heard the story. Edge Studio was originally a music studio, and somewhere around the year 2000 or so, I switched it over to voiceover because I could not stand the vices that went on in the studio, drugs and drinking like I've never seen before. Keep in mind that at that time, it was just myself and some assistant engineers recording music, and we did a lot of national acts. So bands would move in for 6 months. We were talking crazy big budgets back in the day, and they had big budgets for big drugs. But I never smoked, I never drank, and eventually I became a drug-free studio, and I lost half my clients. About a month later, I went to a non-alcoholic studio, dry studio, and there went the other half of my clients. And so I turned to voiceover. And you guys should know, and this could be perhaps educational, that when I got rid of when I pretty much shut out all of my clients, and I thought, well, the only thing I can do is voiceover, right? I have all of these microphones and sound padded rooms and whatever. I really didn't know much about voiceover. And so I reached out to a large number of nonprofits that I believed in, just I personally believed in, and said, "Hey, can I donate some like radio commercials?" That's all I knew about. I didn't know about corporate work and never thought about audiobooks and all the other stuff. And that was a great start for us. Nonprofits would say, "Sure. I mean, yeah, we could use a commercial. We need a live announcement recorded. We need a training video." And it's at least for us back 20 years ago, it was a great way to get into the industry. So sometimes you have to find your way in, find some sort of niche or something that leads you to it. But I think the other cool thing about that, the other lesson to be taken, is that I provided that service for nonprofits that I personally believed in, like I said. So I was really inspired to do a good job for them. And I think that passion came through when I offered it to these companies. And yeah, well, here we are 21 years later, still pumping out voiceovers. So it's cool.
So the bottom line is, if you want a party studio, it's not David Goldberg's.
It's not my studio. Yeah. It's not Edge Studio. Yeah, yeah.
Who is it? I'm looking. Maybe Miranda's studio. There might be a party studio. No, okay, definitely not there. All right, cool. Well, maybe mine someday. Just kidding. That's also not the case. But I will also say it's really interesting to, I mean, if people want to show of hands, like if you are a musician or have done music or have moved from a music world into a VO world, our friends at Voice Tracks West here in LA, Andrew Feliciano has specifically said, like, we are not a music studio. I do not do the band. I don't bring in these bands. I can't. No, I'm not doing that. Like, and there's sort of a transition, that's like, I'm done with that life. and I was like, oh yeah, David is too.
Well, no, I'm not. The funny thing is, I'm not done with it. Like, I miss it. I really miss engineering. I really miss mixing. Mastering was fine, but engineering and mixing. That I just love that stuff, and I miss it passionately. I really, really do.
Mm.
But the work, like I said, just the lifestyle was just not, it was not cut out for me. So it was a hard transition, very hard transition.
So Tim is asking, is revenue better in the VO world for your labor than in the music world?
Yeah, so I can answer that question in two different ways. One from the performer side, because I've never been a performer, right? I was the engineer at the studio. I mean, I owned the studio, and though I still own the studio now I'm a director. So I've never been the performer. Um, performers, uh, I think performers in music or in voiceover can do very well, right? You know, some bands, some musicians are very successful. A lot of voice actors make their full-time career at this. So, you know, both have the, regardless of which direction you go, there's certainly the possibility to make a full income. In terms of owning a studio, I think that for the vast majority of studios, they will do better economically as a voiceover studio, because the music industry requires a lot more equipment. You know, typically only have one band in at a time, whereas we have, like in Times Square, we have 5 studios, and some of them are pretty small. They don't take up nearly the real estate, so and a lot less equipment also. And we're not dealing with, you know, 10 musicians coming in and taking up all sorts of space and stuff. So I don't know. They're just different worlds. They really are.
Yeah, Jen, I'm curious about your studio experience moving through your various like areas of expertise. You know, have you strictly stayed in sort of the VO world of recording, or have you branched out as well?
Only into on camera. In terms of recording, it's all about VO for me, narration. I record a podcast, a narration podcast. I think I've talked to a lot of people about that, so I dig that. I miss going into the actual live studio. And David, I can relate. When I started in advertising, not me, but I was appalled at the activities that it, like all that stuff in advertising that seemed like, oh, that's not true. It was true. Like people doing things. It was like, what? So no, to answer your question, Siobhán, I have never branched into music, just into on camera, but it's VO for me full time.
We are wholesome here at Edge Studio. Okay. You know, just, you can take us home to mom. We can, you know, we can meet your dog. Like, we're just wholesome content through and through.
You never have to worry about us. There's no worries about us.
No worries. David complimented my use of the word GADZOOKS this morning.
Yeah, it's a great. How many of you have heard the word GADZOOKS in a while? GADZOOKS, that's a good word.
Dina, I said that the Q&A last night, the questions in the class last night was just like GADZOOKS for me. There were just like endless questions. And David's like, you just said GADZOOKS. I was like, yeah, you know, I worked in childcare for quite some time. So,
you know, I have never seen, like, sometimes I think I've seen everything in a voiceover script, right? 21 years, 5 studios, you do the math of all the voiceover scripts. I've never seen the word GADZOOKS in a script. Never. Not that I recall.
you know what? I challenge everyone to take a screenshot of this Zoom and post on socials that GADZOOKS, was this a good time?
Yeah, if you can find GADZOOKS in the script, that would be freaking on. That would be GADZOOKS. Let's go. We have lots of questions. Okay, let's go.
Hashtag GADZOOKS.
That's oh my gosh, there is an anonymous chat that says, ask the Puritans anything today. Okay, all right, I'm going to Victoria, who I'm a big fan of. Woo! Victoria says, for Jen and David, I'm going to go to Jen first because that's what I'm going to do. She says, I always feel like my voice doesn't sound as polished as other voiceover artists that I hear. I'm not talking about a polished performance, just the voice itself. As a classically trained singer, talking about musicians up in here, I'm used to making my voice sound a certain way, but in voiceover, I've been told not to do that, to just talk naturally. Jen, is Victoria too in her head? Is this a thing? What's going on?
Yeah, natural, authentic, that's where it's at. So having a polished voice, not a thing, not necessary. We're hearing all kinds of voices, particularly in the last, I'd say, David and Siobhán can probably weigh in on this as well, but in the last couple of years, we're hearing all kinds of just voices from everywhere. And some of them are a little more polished. Some of them are a little more, have a little more texture. Some of them are accented. I was watching a Subaru spot, and apropos of nothing, the voice actor was Southern, had a little Southern twang. Had nothing to do with the Subaru, had nothing to do with the spot, but he had a lovely sort of storytelling vibe. So yeah, natural, authentic, being yourself, not trying to manipulate the voice to sound all polished. That's, I mean, back in the day, like when I started in advertising, that was the thing, like being very smooth and the little, you know, deep was where it was at. And then, and I always tell people this, advertisers and clients caught on more than a decade ago that people don't really like to be sold stuff. What they want to have are experiences. So that's why this conversational read has been on the scene for a long time, and it's not going anywhere, everybody. So that's what I tell everyone, be natural. That conversational trend, if you're going to make a go of it in voiceover, you gotta hone that conversational read. And that comes from your natural voice, not from putting anything on.
Mm, mm.
Yeah, and I think that's great, Jen. Thanks. And to even further that, one of the biggest things that casting teams look for or listen for is a voice actor who has personality in their delivery. So when Jen is saying your natural voice, Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's not just the quality of your voice, that is whether your voice is scratchy or sounds different than other people or has a southern twang, but just your natural personality.
Yeah.
That really helps sell because, like you said, Jen, casting teams typically are looking for a voice actor who can connect with one listener out there. And so that's the personality. And one of the biggest thwarts that newcomers have into this industry is they get so caught up in their head. And Siobhán, there's your expression, right? They're so caught up in thinking about their technique that they no longer infuse their own personality. And well,
Yeah.
that sucks because it doesn't sound humanistic at that point. So you want to get to the point, everyone, that you can read a script and you trust your natural voice. I think those words are key. Trust your natural voice
Mhm.
and let your natural personality come through and accept the fact that you sound different. Don't worry about it. I cannot emphasize that enough because GADZOOKS, if someone wants to hire you for your voice, then that's great. Don't go and change your voice, right? And to even further back that up, you could look at TV commercials, for example, and you'll see actors who are of all shapes and sizes and looks and whatever. And there's a part for almost everyone. And likewise in voiceover, there's work for almost every voice. So yeah, trust your voice, use your personality, have fun when you read, be natural.
Yeah,
There you
yeah.
go.
And I'll just piggyback real quickly onto that. Absolutely. Personality. I think of it as point of view. We're voice actors. We can have a point of view about what we're saying. We're never the main delicious dish. We're supporting the message, we're supporting the on-camera picture, but we still get to let our point of view come through. I can tell you for a fact, I've never hired a voice actor because of the sound of their voice. It's the connection to the copy. It's the engagement with what they're talking about. And anyone who's coached with me recently, I talked about a webinar I was in with a casting director here in Los Angeles. Somebody in the webinar asked this very top-notch casting director, level playing field of talent, what stands out to you? And she said two things. Does the actor sound like they're reading, or does it sound like they're talking? And are they feeling anything? Are they connecting on any level that makes me feel a little something like, oh, I can tell from their personality, their point of view, they enjoy this product, or I can hear the relationship. So that's, I think, just sort of to piggyback, like I said, onto David's, yeah, personality, point of view, being yourself, and bringing it.
Yeah, and I'm bringing it back into marketing as well, and a lot of what we were talking about last night with the social media class and how the world wants to know about you, and they want to experience you. And as you know, in the world of branding yourself, selling yourself in terms of not sales, but not the sales in which we are used to growing up. You are putting yourself out there as uniquely you, and that we get to know you and we want to work with you and we want to be around you and we want to hear what you authentically bring to the space and to the script and to a working relationship, you know. So all of these things are incorporated with each other. So yeah, so Victoria, I hope that's helpful, but I also can relate. I think it's very easy to gosh, I think it's one comparison, right? What did we say? Isn't there's some quote about comparison that's really tough. And I think sometimes we hear other people's voices and it's like you start to compare, and it's really hard because sometimes that's not going to help you that much.
Yeah, don't compare.
Don't compare. They're both shaking their
You
heads.
can learn from other voice actors, but don't compare. Trust your natural voice.
Yeah.
From Jorge, they say practice makes perfect, but not if you're practicing the wrong things, right?
Oh, yes.
Are there woo! Are there any tips or exercises you can recommend to work on consistency in vocal technique? So let's start with Jen.
Consistency in vocal technique as opposed to audition. I mean, I guess they need a little more, by vocal technique, do you mean conversational reads, that kind of thing?
Jorge, feel free to drop in more specifics.
Yeah, maybe it's a little early here in Los Angeles, California. Maybe I'm not catching.
Yeah, and while you find Jorge, Siobhán, so in terms of practicing, he had a terrific point, something we all of us at Edge stress. If your ears are not tuned into what is currently being casted in this industry, you probably shouldn't practice, because if you're practicing incorrectly, you're only reinforcing bad habits. So wait until you can hear whether or not you're doing something correctly before you start practicing. That's critical. You can use our feedback form and get ideas from peers. You can have coaching sessions, take a class, but yeah, don't practice unless you know what to listen for. Siobhán, have you found Jorge to clarify that question?
I have not, and I haven't heard from him in the chat, as it were, unless hello, welcome new folks who have just arrived. I'm like scrolling through the screens. Oh, here, Jorge, his camera's off, so I don't know how present he is in this moment.
Okay, so let's move on.
Let's keep the flow, as it were. Okay, my girl Denitra's here though. Hi.
Oh, he just wrote, I'm here.
Oh, hi, Jorge. Okay, cool.
Can't type fast though.
All right. Jorge,
Okay, let's do another question and come back to Jorge.
Copy. All right. So D is asking if it's a bad idea to memorize scripts while auditioning.
I'll weigh in on that. That's a very bad idea.
Tell us why.
Done. Drop. Mic drop. Bad idea. It's a bad idea because you don't have to memorize as a voice actor, and now you're asking your brain to do one more thing, to sort of like add into your process that you just don't need to do. Also, when we memorize things, we tend to get in a groove because we are memorizing and we can't get out of it. I say, look at your script. That way you have more freedom to move it around. I think that one thing actors do is they get stuck in a groove, to David's point about not getting feedback. And then they just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And then they get into a session and I want to, or maybe the director has some other feedback and you can't direct them out of it. They're just like, nope, I've been practicing it. I memorized it like this. This is what I got.
And another really big reason I think not to memorize a script is because you will no longer sound natural, right? It no longer will sound spontaneous. And that is the whole point of being a voice actor, right? Is to sound natural. If you don't sound natural, you can't possibly engage a listener. They won't listen to you because you don't sound natural. They won't take what you say as a fact or absorb the information you're given. You totally lose your listener engagement. So sound spontaneous. And to that, when you guys read auditions, record take one. Do your best to record take one. Set levels with a different script. I mean, look at the script and get an idea of how you're supposed to read it, and that's fine. But read it to yourself. Just skim it over as little as possible to know what you're supposed to do or to have an idea of what you're supposed to do. And if you need to warm up, then switch over to something else. Warm up on that, then get to the script that you're supposed to record and record it spontaneously, because that first take may sound the best. And if you mispronounce a word somewhere, that's okay. It happens. Just keep going. And then you go back and you fix anything you need to fix, make some edits, but that's the way that you will typically sound better and win much more work.
I want to say if it's coming from any anybody who comes from the theater world like I do, and you're used to memorizing and kind of internalizing text in your body, and then you find, I mean, for me, certainly, I find my breath support easier when I'm not staring at the script because I feel like I'm in my body more. And I want to encourage you to just kind of really look at these as different art forms, and one can inform the other, but it's really a whole other world, which is why we train for it. Even if we're such good actors, it doesn't mean you're such a good voice actor, right?
Yeah, well, they're
So
different. Yeah.
they're
And
really,
and to boot, you can't possibly memorize an audiobook, right? 3 or 4% of this industry is commercial work. And yeah, maybe you have the ability to memorize 15 seconds of copy or 30, maybe even 60 seconds. That would be hard. But, the vast majority of the stuff is corporate training and e-learning videos and narrations and documentaries, and no one wants to go and memorize that stuff. And if you try to memorize passage by passage and then record it, then you're the least efficient voice actor, which means the job will take you 3 or 4 times as long, which means you don't make the money that you should be making per hour. You can't win that way. So again, trust your natural instincts, trust your voice. That is today's theme, GADZOOKS.
okay.
Yeah.
From Ashley, question: as an absolute beginner without any prior work samples, how would you recommend putting together a demo? Can I use any text from commercials and animated shows? I mean, who wants to take this one? Show David or Jen. We all,
Whichever.
yeah,
I defer, David.
yeah.
I have thoughts. I'm sure David has thoughts.
I don't think about too much. Yeah, so here are my thoughts. You need a demo, and I would not record a demo on your own because it will probably never compete with a professionally recorded demo. So if you have no experience whatsoever, work with a coach. Hopefully, someone at Edge Studio, right? Someone who has some knowledge of all of the different types of voiceover. Let them help you figure out where your strengths are, because you may be more gifted at nonfiction audiobooks. Maybe you're better gifted at documentaries, maybe commercials, maybe cartoons, maybe many of the above. There are 27 different genres the way we sort of categorize them. So figure out where your strengths are rather than being a jack of all trades. Work with a coach who can help you get there and help you put together a demo. With respect to your other question about finding copy, friendly advice, definitely not legal advice. And everyone here can hear that, not legal advice. But friendly advice, virtually every voice actor I know has taken copy from commercials they hear on TV, things that are in the public world, and they use them on their demo. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but just about everyone does it. And I haven't heard of anyone getting in any legal issues because of it. But I say this differently. You could be the first one who has some legal issue, even though I've not heard of that being the case. Or you could take something that's popular out there on the airwaves and rewrite it. You can make some edits to it, so you sort of change it up. And also on our website, we have a library of about 6,500 scripts, which is great, and they're broken up into those 27 categories. But we state in big letters on the front page, do not use these on a demo. Lots of other voiceover schools do use those on demos. We don't. We suggest that anyone should have a tailored demo. So you should figure out or work with a coach who can take copy and really help customize it so it shows off your best voice.
Okay, so let's go to Ferdi, who is saying, for both Jen and David, I started in advertising too as a copywriter, but later got into improv, which led me to voiceover to practice character work. During the pandemic, we lost performing in front of audiences. Yes, we did, which I would do multiple times each weekend. Sorry for your loss. So I began recording more for fun. I'm now working on creating a few samples or a sort of ad demo, commercial demo, I think, to send out to my friends in advertising. I've done the IVO class with art and it was great. What else can I do to help out with these sample recordings? I think this actually kind of ties into what David sort of just said. I think, if either of you want to weigh in on that, we would recommend that you put them in the hands of an engineer.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wouldn't wing it, you all. I just wouldn't do that. I mean, and to your point about being in advertising, I think if you're a copywriter, I have lots of copywriter friends. They've written copy for me when I first got started, but I'm a producer. I didn't get busy producing my own demo. I just knew better. You want to put yourself, as Siobhán said, in solid hands. And I just feel like you're kind of DIYing it, and it's just not professional. And that's, that's a Jenn
Yeah,
symbol.
or even take what you've recorded and book a session with me, you know, and let me listen to it and give you my thoughts on it, or another coach. Let someone who really is in the know listen to it, because it's critical that the demo conveys trust, right? You need to convey trust. You need to instill trust in the listener and the casting team, and so they need to hear that demo and think that it's 100% real. So if I catch things, whether they are vocal issues or music issues or sound effect issues or a combination of them or even mix issues, things that suggest that these are not segments from real recordings, then it's like telling the casting team, you know what, I have no real experience. And that's not really the best way to begin a relationship with a new casting agent or someone. So yeah, book a session and let me take a listen to it.
So, y'all, do large organization clients only go with agencies to find talent, or do they direct contact? Let's just ask it. How do large organization clients book talent? How do they do that?
Me or Jen?
Jenn, you want to tell us?
Yes, I can tell you in my experience, and again, voiceover, it's a wide open world, right? So this could be just my experience. Don't assume like that's the only way. But if you're a large client like Nike, Wells Fargo, anything, McDonald's, you have an advertising agency. And that advertising agency has a creative team, and that creative team either both or one goes to a casting director or talent agencies. They just don't have the time to go, hey, I'm McDonald's, send me a reel. It just doesn't go that way. So if you're looking for like big fish clients, you need a top-notch talent agent, and you need relationships with casting.
Yeah,
That's the tea.
I like to. My thought is a little different than that. I have found some national companies that do go with the online casting sites, but it's a very small percentage of them. But what's going to happen is when you're on an online casting site, which I fully support, by the way, okay, fully support. Um, if you're on one of those sites, you see a couple of name brand national companies, and that's great. But for everyone you see, there could be 10 or 20 or some magnitude of them more going through agents and casting directors, or going directly to recording studios. And so you won't know what it is that you're missing. So yeah, you'll find some out there on the online casting sites. But yeah, if you really want to get a lot of those national clients, you do want to work through a casting director, an agent, a manager, a production house, some other forms of casting.
How when casting a commercial VO, how much of an artist's
Oh,
reel do you
wait. I'm sorry. We need to give more information on that last question. Sorry, Siobhán, because Jen and I have only given you information from pretty much for the commercial end of these large brands. These large national brands and international companies, they very often have other departments within their organization which seek narration voiceover actor or voice actors, whether they are training videos, HR videos, e-learning, internal videos, public-facing videos, welcome to our company videos, whatever it might be. And those large corporations typically have HR departments that seek voice actors, communication departments, marketing teams, sometimes interns. All different people at these corporations will seek voice actors. Those people very often do go through online. I probably would say it's an even split with them going through online casting sites and talent agents and production houses. So you'll find more national brand corporate work, narration work on the online casting sites than you will the commercial work.
Mhm.
Okay.
So yeah, so let's start with Jenn for this question. When casting a commercial VO, how much of an artist's reel or demo do you listen to? This is a great question. Do you go beyond the first spot? Obviously we teach versatility. Do you hear the versatility?
It depends. It really depends. I will often tell my clients, my students, like your prime real estate is that first line or that first spot on your demo. If I'm listening to, say, 50 auditions and I've got to cull them down to 10 to present to my creative team, if you don't hit it straight out of the gate for me, I'm not listening to the rest of your auditions. There's just not time. There just isn't time. It's not personal. There just isn't time. In terms of listening to demos, if they're, I think, around the minute mark, and I like what I hear the first couple of moments, I'll listen all the way to the end to see what's going on. But if I can tell that it's just like not a professional demo, if there's just something hinky going on, I have to turn it off. I don't have the time, and
Hinky.
neither does the creative team.
Second word of the day.
Hinky, yeah.
Hinky.
David, what do you think? How good should the first spot on your demo be the best spot? Like,
How do you define best, right? That's a very subjective word. I think voice actors tend to want to have a national client up front. I don't think that is the most important thing. I think the thing that should be first on your demo is certainly something that is marketable and shows your natural personality. And that should probably lead your demo. And then maybe the second piece has the most variety. But interestingly, studies show that when an agent or any casting person listens to a demo, they typically listen to the first between 3 and 7 seconds. Then they typically jump somewhere to the middle of the demo, listen to another 3 to 7 seconds, then typically jump to the very end of the demo and listen to the last 3 or 7 seconds. And when I first saw that study done, I thought, well, that's really makes sense, because back in the day when we used to go to record stores and buy CDs and records, and you could play them at the record store, like you could sample them. I used to do the exact same thing: listen to a couple seconds, jump ahead, and if I really like something, then I'd buy the whole album and listen to the whole album. Same thing here. So if I listen to a demo, or most people who I know who cast, they do sort of jump around the beginning, the middle, the end, and then if you really want to hear more, then you can listen to the entire demo. So that's what we find.
Okay. From Art. Hi, Art. He says, what are some techniques you can work on to build mental stamina and condition your body and mind to be in top shape for readings? Also, P.S. Hi, Jen. It's Art. Looking forward to our next session. We got fans in the house, and I do love this.
Yeah, wow.
David, maybe we'll switch it up and start with you on this one. Building mental stamina and conditioning the body and mind for VO.
Yeah, well, there's a lot to think about, right? If you have no mental stamina, if you don't have the physical stamina, if you don't have breath control, or if you are a loud breather, maybe you're better suited for short voiceover, like commercials. So, for example, I worked with a voice actor many years ago who had the clickiest, loudest mouth sounds ever. And this is going way back pre-digital recording. This was back like in 2000, 2001, when I was just getting into voiceover. And so we hired this guy a lot, but only for very short recordings. It's one thing to edit out mouth clicks over the span of 30 seconds, but not for a 10-hour audiobook. Likewise, I've worked with voice actors who are just, hyper. They're hyperactive. They tap their foot when, they're like bouncing around, and it's hard to get them to stay still. And they're better suited to short voiceover. So I guess this really comes down to understanding your personality, your natural character, your personality traits, your characteristics. Some voice actors have a hard time sort of connecting with a short story, conversely, and do better with a long form narration. So I think a lot of the answer to your question comes down to what is right for you. You can try to condition yourself to do better, but I think it depends on what is preventing you from holding that concentration, right? What's causing you to maybe lose concentration, and can that be changed? If it can't, then that's fine. Stick with short scripts. Certainly something Jen said that I really like is, if you read scripts that you have passion for, I think you'll always read more consistently and with more personality, and you read because you believe in it. Like the nonprofits that I did in the very beginning of the voiceover industry. I don't know. Jen, any other thoughts? Or Siobhán?
Yeah, Jen.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in terms of voiceover, I always, everybody's heard me say it, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So just sort of being in general, like whatever you need to do to take care of your general well-being. I think Art asked about mind and body, like just staying hydrated, rested,
yeah.
you know, that sort of thing. When you talk about this overall well-being, I mean, I'm not at my best if I'm hangry. So should we hashtag hangry? Everyone knows the feeling, right? As far as mine, I mean, the arts are challenging. It can be challenging to audition and audition and audition and maybe not book for a minute, but just to know, again, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. Stick with it. Eventually things fall into place. Believe me, and I can say this from great expertise, as a trained actor and an advertising agency producer, I didn't just audition once or twice and start booking. Even though I had friends who were clients, producers, they didn't necessarily come running to my door. It took some time. So I think maybe in terms of like keeping yourself mentally or having some mental stamina for voiceover is just accepting that it's a process and keep
Oh,
going.
sorry. Yeah, and two other thoughts. One is a lot of new voice actors, new to the industry, tend to focus so much on their breathing that they run out of steam very quickly.
Yeah.
But if you listen to those who are doing very well in this industry, you'll hear that breathing is not an issue. They don't read with tension. So if you can read a script, if you can record a script and you're not tense, if you're not so focused on your breathing, then it's quite possible that your energy will be much calmer and you'll probably sound more humanistic. You'll sound more real. You'll be able to infuse your personality into your recording, and you won't run out of steam. And something else I would suggest is experiment a little bit, right? Experiment. So maybe if you're given a long form narration, such as an audiobook, which nonfiction averages about 10 and a half hours long, maybe you just record 15 minutes at a time, and then you go back and you edit for 15 minutes and you do some back and forth rather than trying to record for 3 hours straight, which seems a little overwhelming, right? So, you record, you edit, you go back to recording, you go back to editing, and so on. You have to make sure your voice sounds consistent from recording session to recording session. But once you get that down, that might be a good way to go.
Yeah, on the breathing thing, I just want to tell everyone, don't, for commercial especially, don't cut those breaths out. It sounds robotic, it sounds unnatural, and it sounds like you've taken away your personality. The breath becomes part of the performance. It gives you a chance to make a transition, make a turn. It's amazing. And again, I'll just use myself as an example. My agent, way back when I started, was like, Jen, stop scrubbing your audition. Scrubbing meaning cleaning all those breaths out. He's like, pros don't do it. It sounds wrong. So I was like, note to self. So don't do what Jen Sims did. Leave your breaths in for commercial.
Right.
I
But
don't want
technically
no
speaking,
scrubs.
Sorry, Siobhán?
I just said I don't want no scrubs.
No scrubbing.
But if you are compressing heavily or even normalizing heavily, then your breaths will appear louder than they really typically are compared to your voice. And so you may need to lower the volume of your breaths. But yeah,
Right.
as Jen said, breaths sound completely natural. I mean, voice actors are being hired because you bring humanistic qualities to the recording. I mean, if the client doesn't want a human being, they could just have some text to voice software do the job for them. They'd have to pay no money, right? But they want a human being, and human beings breathe, and listeners are used to hearing breathing. You don't notice it because you're so used to hearing it. So you can keep them in as long as they're not too obtrusive.
Right.
So yeah, like I said, compression, which is necessary to some degree, will make the breaths sound louder than they really are compared to the volume of your voice. So you may have to lower them.
The one thing I'll add in terms of the mental scope of this industry is that for me, community really helps me. You're here on this Zoom. There's 78 charming human beings who are kind. And being in the world of this industry, which is very solitary, it's important to be able to have friends and allies in the spectrum, and you can find them through social media and see people who are grinding and hustling just like you. Literally, I was telling folks last night, like, sometimes, let's say you're not booking anything, you're just auditioning, you can post a photo of you and your coffee on a Monday, And my friend who was in the class last night texted me this morning and was like, oh my gosh, I follow this voice actor I really like in San Francisco. And she posted a photo of her and her coffee. And I was like, yeah, everybody likes to talk about coffee because everybody wakes up and they get back to the grind and we're in it together, you know? And I think that talking to people about it, continuing to find connections as we continue to try to do in the more and more digital world, I think is something that really helps me feel less alone, you know, in the journey that can feel daunting. Speaking of daunting, Al is asking for tips and tools in being well organized. I want to start with Jenn because you know, her coming from full-time voice actor, how do you organize your day without just getting like all the tabs open in the browser?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I am a planner. I am somebody who like, I make lists, I make plans, I calendar everything in my calendar. And obviously things are going to go off the rails, but I build in a little time slush fund. So like after this, I have a little slush fund of time. And then I go on to my next, I have a session a little later. So I think it's really, you know, organizing yourself, I think, is super individual. Like my hubby, he flies by the seat of his pants and he's fine every minute of the day. He's just like, I don't know. But me, I like to just like get out in front of things and get on top of things so that I'm not like, awooga, GADZOOKS hair on fire. Can we hashtag that? So if I have auditions, I prioritize them. I don't care that my agent says the deadline is 4 o'clock tomorrow. I'm front loading auditions. Those go first, right? It's a numbers game and clients are in a hurry. And if they say the deadline's 4 o'clock tomorrow, I guarantee you by 4 o'clock today, they've already chosen their voice actor. So I like to, me personally, I like to start early, get the hard stuff done. Like for me, it's things like working out, meditating, things that if I don't do first, they're not going to happen. And then I just like work through my calendar. It's like, I know like all the time what's going on. So that's how I roll.
I think that's great. And I've actually witnessed Jenn's slush fund when she's had a busy back-to-back day and was heading from coaching to our mixer. And she was like, I'll be there at 5:15, you know, like, because she was ending a session and she was kind of getting herself together. And, you know yourself and your clients, you know, will respect you for it. David, what are some of your strategies for organizing your time through your day?
Jen, you and I are in sync on all that stuff. I think the only other thing to throw in for voice actors is to consider organizing your long-term plans, as prioritizing your long-term plans as well as the day-to-day stuff, because I feel like they're two very different beasts, and it sort of shocks me sometimes when uh, someone is new to voiceover and they've really put the cart before the horse. So you need to think logically about a game plan, a short term and a long term game plan, maybe even a midterm game plan, and calendar that out also, guys, and stick to it. Find an accountability group if you need to, someone to hold you, up to your day to day plans, your long term plans, and make sure you hit those marks. Do what you need to do. So.
Okay. Everyone is really wonderful here. So yeah, so I think I agree that is everybody's gonna have different ways. Some of us are in sync, some of us are Backstreet Boys, you know, you're gonna kind of learn what works for you. But I definitely believe in getting some of the hardest stuff out of the way first thing. And budgeting time. You know, if you're really, really struggling with figuring out how to schedule your life as a freelancer, I highly recommend a session with Tom Deere here at Edge Studio. He kicked my sweet tush when he was like, your life is a bowl of spaghetti. And that's not going to work. You know, it was kind of like therapy a little bit, but it's good. Sometimes somebody needs to tell you that a bowl of spaghetti is not going to help you navigate your freelance career and experience. So I definitely think that's good. Ooh, you know what? Dina, I like this. I'm so curious as to what David and Jenn think about this. This is just sort of a branding Edge thing moving forward, but is Edge considering moving their webinars to Zoom? The engagement is so much stronger here generally than GoToMeeting. What do you guys think? Jenn, would you be up for teaching on Zoom?
I think Zoom is just easier overall, and we can put our cameras on and we can see one another. And yeah, I just feel like people are a little bit more familiar with it so they can find things. But obviously, I'm going to defer to David Goldberg.
Yeah, David, what's your feels?
Well, we have a couple of people on our team who focus on that stuff. And Dina, your question is terrific. I think Zoom is fantastic. It has pluses and minuses, I have found. It has a lot more pluses than minuses. Go to meeting, go to webinar, go to mypc.com. I mean, all of these features also have their own pluses and minuses. And Adobe has some interesting learning software out there. There are a lot of plans out there. So I think what would make sense is for me to bring your idea to the people in our office who I'd like to give autonomy to, and let them consider it, because yeah, it's a terrific question. I want to make sure that, in fact, I could parallel this to all of your voiceover careers. Don't get stuck in a rut. Don't become complacent. Just because GoToWebinar may work for webinars doesn't mean it's the best. So the comparison here are voice actors who are just doing things the same way that have sort of worked for them, and maybe there's a better way. So I will take the notion that maybe there is a better way. So I'll bring it to the powers that be who are on our team, who are there to figure that stuff out.
Yeah, I like this response. Definitely in my group yesterday that was, used to the OK Zoomer life with me, I certainly missed seeing their faces. I put my face up because I can't help myself, but I missed seeing everybody else because I make just exquisite jokes, really. Just my stand-up was incredible. So I couldn't see them laughing at me, and I was like, whoa, I'm really in the void tonight. So, and I think Dina was kind of vibing with that. I want to do one more question before the hour ends. And I'm going to go to, oh boy. Okay. This is about narrative reads and documentary. So, okay, Jenn, for you, what qualities would you say are wanted in a narrative read and a documentary? Like storytelling as opposed to the sharing of experience we talked about earlier with commercials. Do you know what we're getting at here?
Yeah, totally. I think in narration, you still need to be connected to what you're saying. It still has to be a little bit more one-on-one. Anybody can crack a book, or not anybody, but a lot of us can read out loud, but that's not very interesting. What's interesting is engagement, is feeling like somebody is taking you along for the ride. I always think of us when we're narrating, we're sort of captioning, we're sort of staying within the middle part of our lane, but we still have a point of view, because my point of view helps the listener not only understand, or viewer understand, like, why are they seeing this? I want them to know how they should feel about it. If I'm narrating about Anne Frank in, World War II in Amsterdam, obviously I need to have a point of view. I'm not spiking, I'm not right there in Amsterdam, but I'm seeing it and I'm taking my viewer along with me. So I'm not in the story, but I certainly have some feels about this story. So I think that, yeah, it is connected storytelling, but it's got to be a little bit more one-on-one. It can't be the, professor at the front with the book just reading to you about it. It's not interesting. David probably has some.
Yeah, David, any final summation
I may
thoughts
have a
on
thought
that?
or two. Yeah, like that is a really terrific, fantastic question, and one that we could talk for a long time on. So I'll just give you a very brief overview. There are so many variables that I think it's really near impossible to answer. You need to consider if there's a video or not. You need to consider if there's a soundtrack of music or sound effects or not. You need to consider the audience and the purpose of the recording, and should it be factual, informal, informal, articulate? I mean, there's just a lot of variables. I think it does come down to connecting with the listener, like Jenn said, making sure that that listener feels that you are talking to them, in given the appropriate variables are met. So, for example, if there's a visual, well, then the visual is telling the story. You don't need to tell the story nearly as much as if you would need to if there is no visual. So you can run a quick homework assignment, all of you, and watch documentaries this evening on National Geographic or History Channel, Wildlife Channel, whatever, Animal Planet, and listen to the documentary. I'll rather listen to the narrator of the documentary. They're not all that animated. I mean, yeah, their voice matches to the screen and everything like that, but they're not being melodramatic in any sense at all. even if it's a horrific scene, you might see it like on an Animal Planet channel, right? They're essentially telling the listener what they're looking at. Whereas if there's no visual, perhaps they would need to be more theatrical, more emotional in their delivery, more storytelling. So yeah, there are a lot of variables, and learning them is terrific. So figure them out, talk with a coach, work with a coach, learn what you need to, how you can decipher a script and figure out what your vocal delivery should be, so you can win the auditions.
Yeah. I agree. I think that a lot of it is breaking down that script. Just as David said, we're a little bit more objective as narrators, but we've got to know the script is the roadmap, and it pretty much determines what you do with that read. So
Yeah.
for sure.
Comfortable with the language. Speaking of working with coaches and all of that magic, here is for my new folks, a little coupon, a $25 off coaching AMA. Just use the AMA with this link and you can work with Jenn Sims and get some time with her. Again, we've got this EQ and compression class happening with Art Bruder, which is super fabulous. I'm just a huge fan. I mean, Jenn and Art, just like, can you have a better time than with either of these two delightful humans? And if this is your first time hanging out with us ever, trying to get into voiceover, what are you doing? Our Investigate Voiceover class is a lovely way to begin. I want to extend immense gratitude to Jenn Sims. She's donating her time to us today to be part of this community and to give energy and good vibes out, and like GADZOOKS, do we appreciate her. Jenn, thanks for being with us. Closing remarks on your end?
Really delighted to see everybody here, delighted to be part of the community, piggybacking on Siobhán's GADZOOKS. Build a community, everybody. Get in with a coach, meet some other voice actors, and I'll see everybody or hear everybody on the air. So yeah, really glad to be here. Glad everyone could join us. Thanks.
Thanks for being with us. And as always, thank you, David, for hanging out for 30 sessions with me. It is a pleasure to spend this time with you, whether we're singing, Journey or Cyndi Lauper, or talking about documentary narration. David, thank you.
And Siobhán, thank you for being awesome. And all of you who are out there, thank you for tuning in. And you guys rock, and really great questions today. Really fun to talk about.
Wonderful. And everyone, if you want to just throw some love in the chat and throw some good vibes, I will get them to the people who need them, or just in general to the community at large. If you want to put your social handle to make sure we're following each other. If you follow Edge Studio on the socials, you'll find me, you'll find Jenn. We'll be in the chats in that way. Thank you all. It's great to see everyone again. Happy, final month of spring. I don't even know what's happening in the world. Like, it's so wild. Yes, LinkedIn. We're back doing the LinkedIn and I'm really enjoying it. Jeff, yes. Okay. Good luck in your journeys, everybody. That's
exactly
funny. You guys, in 2 weeks, right? 2 Thursdays from now, same time.
Yes. Ask Me Anything. We'll be back with just me and David on Holy Mackerel.
Siobhán is rocking the AMAs. Girl, you are on fire. I love it.
I'm your OK Zoomer on the 27th of May, because that's a time that's coming up, which is like the end of the month. So we'll see you then, me and David, and we look forward to it. Thank you for spending time with us and contributing to our community and being in the world of voiceover. It will karmically, the good energy comes back to you. I believe that, because that's the world we live in. Blessed and
thank you, Jenn.
Yes. Okay. Mwah. Thank you, my good people. You be well. Enjoy the rest of your day, evening, night. Be well.
Jenn, thanks. You rock. Siobhán, you
Thanks,
too.
David.
Bye, guys.
Siobhán.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.